Hello, so today we are doing polymer clay color mixing for pink. So I use Sculpey Primo and they don't have a pink that I'm happy with. They don't have a nice pink. So I'm going to show you how I get to the shade that I want. However, I don't measure out colors. We go by eye around here, okay? So you're not going to get an exact formula, but I'm going to show you the colors I use to get to the color that I want. So if you're all right with that, then stick around to see how I got these colors. Okay, starting out with my favorite shade of pink. I literally use this for everything. I make this shade of pink all the time. I always have some handy. This is like my base shade, and when I want like a pastel pink, I just add white to this. Now the next shade is a little bit more neon and cool toned. It's this shade of pink here that I used in my polymer clay gradient with an extruder tutorial. So if you've come from that video, I'm going to show you how to do this one as well. And here's just a little comparison so you can see the difference between the two pinks. All right, so these are the colors you're going to use. For the first shade of pink, my favorite shade, I use fluorescent pink, pomegranate, which I would say this is kind of like a cool toned red, and white. And for the second shade of pink that I showed, you will need all these colors: fluorescent pink, pomegranate, white, and you also need purple as well. Okay, so for the first pink, these are roughly the ratios that I'm starting out with. You're going to need mostly fluorescent pink, a little bit of pomegranate, and then more white than pomegranate. As you'll see as I go through and I start mixing this actually ended up being too much pomegranate. So if anything, start with a little less of that. I mix my clay with an electric passer machine, as you can see in the video, but if you don't have one of those, you can mix with your hands. It's just a little bit more difficult with a large amount of clay. Now, after I mix these initial colors, I can see that it's a little bit more cool toned and a little bit more of a darker, deeper shade of pink than what I'm aiming for. So I know I've added too much pomegranate. So to balance that out, I'm adding a little bit more fluorescent pink and a lot more white. A lot more white because I already know that this is not light enough for me. At this point, after I've mixed it in, it's pretty good, but it could still use a little bit of tweaking. So I'm going to go ahead and add this much more fluorescent pink and a lot more white again. So yeah, from the start, really, we could have added way less pomegranate and just mostly fluorescent pink and mostly white. However, you do still need the pomegranate, because if you don't add the pomegranate, it ends up just looking like a light fluorescent pink or like a pastel fluorescent pink, which is totally fine if that's what you're going for, but that's not really what I want. I just want it to be like a hot pink. I don't want it to look like fluorescent pink. So adding that pomegranate really makes it a little less neon and more hot pink. All right, so that's it for pink number one, my favorite shade of pink, my pink that I use for everything, that I always have some of. That is how I make it. All right, now moving on, we are going to do shade of pink number two. All right, so just as a little reminder of the difference between the two shades of pink, the larger piece being the one I just made and the smaller piece being the one I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so what do we need to make this? We need purple, white, fluorescent pink, and I know I said we needed pomegranates, but we don't technically need pomegranate because I'm just going to be using a little piece of this pink that I just made, which has pomegranate in it. So we do need it, but we don't need it. You know what I mean? Okay, so here are the ratios I use. I actually got them bang on this time, guys. So we've got majority fluorescent pink, a little bit less white, and then pink number one and purple about the same size, just a little bit of each. So I just put them all together and get mixing. I'm sorry I can't give you guys an exact formula. It's just not how I do it. I find when I have to measure things out, it just kind of takes the fun out of it for me. And before I started working with clay, I used to paint a lot. And I feel like most people, when they mix paint, you just kind of go by eye and you go a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you mix it together and get the color that you want, you know? I mean, maybe some people do measure it out, but I don't. So I just kind of applied that same method to me mixing colors with clay. It also helps me come up with new colors too, because I do a lot of trial and error to get to what I want rather than kind of just measuring and following formulas. Anyway, I hope you don't mind me rambling. Once again, here are the finished results: pink number one and pink number two. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please let me know if you would like to see how I mix any other colors, and I will make the video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.